we were delighted that Venerable William accepted our invitation to come and teach Vinaya next year. And so we wrote back, because she had offered to come for a couple of weeks, and that's not enough. So we wrote back and said, please come longer, at least a month, perhaps two. How about a year? That might be too much to ask. Okay, and just sent that to her, the person who's the coordinating from their side, Venerable Zichi. So Venerable Zichi wrote back, and she said, "Your sincere request for teachings and profound passion for being a bhikshuni deeply moved and inspired me." And I'll tell Venerable William about your request. So I was actually quite touched by what she wrote. Why does what we're doing inspire her? And she's surrounded by lots of bhikshunis and bhikshus and lives in a Buddhist country. So I thought about it, and yes, we, at least I assume, I hope all of you do too, have, a lot of passion for understanding about the full ordination of bhikshuni and bhikshu, and practicing that. So why do we have this? And perhaps why is our passion a little bit maybe stronger than just the average thing that goes on in a Buddhist country? Yeah. So I can say, well, what we're doing here hasn't been done before on this planet. Bringing the Dharma, especially the Sangha, and especially nuns practicing in the Tibetan tradition to America. We don't have any examples of people who have done that before us. Yeah. And so what we're doing is really new. And we're trying to, navigate the situation so that we can be fully ordained, yeah, and also have very good relationships with our Tibetan teachers, yeah, and be seen as doing something that is reasonable, and not only reasonable, but productive and beneficial for sentient beings. Yeah. In addition, we don't live in a Buddhist country. So again, it's harder to set up the Sangha because the lay people don't really understand what in the world you're doing. Okay? And you get calls like Hare Krishna when you walk down the street, or, people being shocked if you're a woman going into a woman's bathroom. If you're a nun going into a woman's bathroom, they like, oh dear, maybe that's a monk, or who's that person, with a shaved head? It can't be a woman. So these kinds of things that happen, because we're not in a Buddhist culture who understands. And I know for myself, it took me 9 years of being a novice to have the opportunity to become a bhikshuni. If you're in Taiwan, like maybe 1 year, you stay at the temple and then you can go to the full ordination. I wanted to do it for quite a long time. And for all that, when I was living in Dharamsala, whenever there was sojung or posada, I would go every 2 weeks and, do the novice confession and rush in with all the little boys to confess and then rush out. And then I would circumambulate the temple again and again and again, and make very strong prayers to one day be able to take the full ordination. Yeah, so I just did that, like, almost every posada, because that's what I really wanted to do, and I didn't quite know the way to go about it. Because who do you contact in Taiwan, and and all these kinds of things. And Venerable Sangye Kadro waited, I don't know, even longer to take Bhikshuni ordination. Venerable Sepel, was a novice even longer than that before being able to take Bhikshuni ordination. So it's not something we take for granted, you know. It's something that you really have to want and yearn for, and then somehow figure out how to do. It's a little bit easier now that the ice has been broken, but still, to take the ordination and then to have a good education in the Vinaya. That's another thing, because the teachings aren't so available in English. I mean, we could read Anne Hireman, but that doesn't really tell us how to practice in our life. We're just reading the translations. We can read Ajahn Tanasaro's, explanation of the precepts for the monks, not for the nuns, in the Theravada tradition. That could give us some information. But again, it isn't, directly applicable, all of it to what we're doing here, and to, the Dharma-guptaka Vinaya. So, we really need teachings. And again, we can't take it for granted. We don't live in a Buddhist country. We can't just see a flyer and about teachings and go. We have to travel, halfway around the world and find somebody to translate for us, and so on and so forth. So it's, it's something we don't take for granted. So, and then you come back, and aside from this community, it's difficult to find communities where you can live and keep the precepts, as a Sangha. Yeah. And Venerable Dechen, who was just here, really could tell you all about that. Yeah. So, so I thought that, I wanted to say, well, why do we have this passion for the teachings? This is why, and why we really, request Venerable William again and again and again, please come here and teach us, and also because we don't want to learn just for ourselves. What we want to do is have the teachings, then transcribe them, make them into a book, and have that available for all the Sangha and future generations, so that they have it easier than we've had it. And it's the only thing we can do to sustain the Dharma, which is part of our responsibility once we are fully ordained. So please make very strong prayers that she will be healthy and live long. She is now 84, and be able to come here for a good period of time. I also pointed out to them that then if she came here for a long period of time, they would also have the explanation of the precepts in Chinese that they could make into a book. They may already have that. I mean, she's been teaching there for how many decades? But, something more to add to it would be also good for their Sangha. Okay. Not take for granted, and we have to really create merit, make prayers, invite again and again. It's something quite special.